New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Out of My Mouth, the program where raw thoughts meet unfiltered conversations.
Join us as we dive into the depths of human experience, where we share stories, perspectives, and insights that just might challenge the status quo.
Get ready to laugh, cry, and ponder the world around you like never before. This is Out of My Mouth.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Out of My Mouth. My name is Marg, and my co-host is
Cheryl. And it's, wherever you're coming from, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome. We're so happy you're joining us. And we'll just take a moment to acknowledge that the lands that we are on before Mark introduces us to our wonderful guest today. So just take a moment and take in a deep breath. And in the spirit of reconciliation and peace, we acknowledge that we are grateful for the opportunity to meet on these sacred lands. We thank the generations of people who've taken care of these lands of thousands of years and come before us. We recognize our oneness. We realize our history. We choose to create a new reality. We are one. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Thank you so much, Cheryl. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest today, and we've had a wonderful discussion before the show on dark chocolate. That's a segue into Anna Harvey is a lover of dark chocolate, a friend to many and a mom to one. She grooves her words on music from the 60s and 70s, as well as jazz, and enjoys singing in a choir. Beautiful Victoria, a beautiful city on Canada's west coast, is where she calls home. Anna is a certified retirement coach, similar to that of being a life coach, but with a specific focus on retirement. Her clients speak about the nudge that starts happening on the inside, telling them there's more that they want to do to contribute in life. According to Anna, retirement offers us a prime time to respond to that nudge. In a time for dusting off the roles and personas that no longer fit, I guess I skipped that. It's a time for creating a next life adventure that is based on your passions, strengths, and values. Anna's delivery model is a blend of coaching, teaching, and consulting. She teaches that with the head and heart aligned, decision-making becomes purposeful, on target, and clear. The result is living a life with meaning. And you're going to bring mind and spirituality and science together today. Anna, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Yes, we'll see what we manage to bring together today.
Love
I love,
it.
I love being in the moment with you women and just sort of seeing what arises. I mean, some of the great words you use in the intro to the show, about raw thoughts and pondering the world and, enriching lives. I mean, yes, yes, and yes. So I'm here with raw thoughts and pondering the world and happy to share it with you.
Wonderful. That's so, really special. So, Anna, tell us a little bit about the topic. When you think about spirituality or science and spirituality and science, what comes to mind?
Well, the allness of it for starters, and even when I started the coaching practice, I realized that much of the coaching that was done, and what I was doing it at that time, relevant to career change for women, but most of the coaching that was happening at that time was very, brain oriented, very logic, very linear. And when I started to come into the realm of coaching others and guiding others, I intuitively took a much more holistic view about it. I knew that the heart could not be left behind. And then over the years, of course, that's just expanded into more and more like heart, and then the spirit and the soul of who we are as well too. But it was really, I feel it was quite radical at the time, because the coaching model was at the time much more when one was doing career coaching, to look at someone's resume, see what what they've got on their paper, how that can be improved or moved or shifted into a different career. But I always remember a really early client that I had who came to me, and she brought me this beautiful portfolio of her resume and the things that she had done in life, and was looking for some guidance on how she was going to find a new career for herself. And in showing me this portfolio, then she just closed it and she turned to me with such a sad expression, and she said, "But that's not me."
Wow.
This is what happens to so many of us, is we get going down a trajectory of life and career that we've thought our way into, but at the exclusion of bringing along heart and soul, and bringing that all into the equation of how to make good life choices that are fully aligned with who we are. And so then that just, of course, becomes also true in the time of retirement, right? It's a glorious time to be, if we haven't brought our heart and spirit into the picture, it for sure is, because we're running out of runway here. It's this is the time when we need to be doing that.
Yeah.
So that whole, I guess that was the beginning of parts of me starting to understand that it wasn't weird, that I had this sense that the feeling component, the heart component, had to be part of what we were doing when we were trying to make meaningful decisions about our life and career. But then some of the science started to drip in, and we started to hear the first things about, well, actually, there's more than one brain, that we've got 3 centers packed with neurons that are also informing us, and that they're like this super highway of connectivity that are sending us messages. And marketing and communications was part of an earlier iteration of me, and hearing some of the people talking about marketing and how we think our buying decisions are really made from mind, from intellect, from rational. This price is better than that price. And of course, to some degree, that's going to be true. But the emotion, there's always an emotional hit, almost preliminary to that thinking hit about our buying decision. And so, marketers too realize that they have to be able to connect in to this other realm. And it's not woo-woo. And I think that's the term we used last time when we were talking that prompted this conversation is some of the things that were considered woo-woo, and that's a term I really don't like. They've actually, we're finding that there's truth in that. There's some science behind it all. I mean, I don't. What do you guys? What do you think? True? Not true?
What I was thinking, not what the question you just asked, but when this person presented their portfolio to you and said, "This is not who I am," and I wonder how much of that was, I created this portfolio so that you will hire me. I know you weren't hiring this person, but
yeah.
Or did this person shift and grow, and now their life is over here? So this used to be them, but now this is who they are now.
Yeah. I always want to believe that there's this beautiful shift and gradual growth, and the reality, and yes, that happens, absolutely. Often for many of us, we don't make the switch until we're in so much physical or emotional pain that we're forced to do something. We're forced to make some kind of a change. And I don't know whether you can relate to that in your life. I certainly can. Like, I cling to what I know until it becomes so painful. I have to start seeking out some other way, some of being, right? So I mean, and this was what was up for her, right? She had gone through so many job iterations and career advancement. Absolutely. No questions. But what she recognized is she was showing up and doing this work and purely out of brain and intellect. There's a fabulous photo I skimmed off the internet. Let's pretend you didn't hear that. But I'm sure it's a Banksy image of a little girl, and she's holding on to a heart at the end, like a balloon, and it's detached, from who she is. And I always think that's such a valid image for so many of us that don't recognize the feeling component. And again, as science is now telling us, hey, oh yeah, actually it's true. And hey, you know what? All those times you folks have been saying about, I just feel in my gut such and such. And how many people, I mean, I know for me in my life where I strongly get that gut intuition to do something, and have been mocked is too strong a word, but diminished because it's not a valid way, in quotes, of making a decision, and yet now we know that there is strength, there is substance there in that gut decision.
Right. And I think a lot of that comes from, Mark, what you were describing, how we identify ourselves is from our conditioning and from this societal expectations, right? That we have to work and we have to earn money and we have to do this and we have to do that and basically get involved in the rat race. And so by doing that, we disconnect with ourselves. And it's a system that is so ingrained in humanity right now that it's almost like you don't have a choice. It's from generations. It's not just from right now, and I notice, and I'm sure that there are women as well, but I notice certain men identify with what they do and their position in a company as who they are. Right. And that's not who we are. Our jobs don't define us, but that's where we land up. Yeah. And so I love that you're doing this work. I'm so grateful that you brought in about the other hearts. I know about the heart having brain cells and having its own little brain, which
Yeah.
is literally scientific, and
Yeah.
you can read more about it. You can find that online. What is the third heart?
It's the gut brain. So there is a group of
Okay.
neurons as well in the gut,
I
which
think
is
I heard that.
the intuitive one. So
Yes.
it's doing that kind of processing too. And often the heart and the gut, I want to say like expressions are the first to arrive before the intellect.
Right.
Right? So what happens for many of us is we do have this emotional or heart-centered response to something, or a gut one, and it's on point, and we override it with our brain. And I'm sure, I'm guessing you can relate to that, right? We've all had that on micro levels and on some major levels in our life too.
Absolutely.
Only to find out that if we had followed that intuitive knowing or that heart knowing, right, it likely would have resulted in a perhaps more positive outcome for us, right, or more alignment. But this alignment is so key, to have all three of these centers at play, and one could say that's perhaps a more fulsome definition of consciousness, when all of those are firing on all cylinders. We live a very aligned life. And Cheryl, your point about this identity with the persona that we've become through our work, that really hits hard when we come into retirement. That's one of the biggies that we're faced with, because once that title is gone, once the job description's no longer there, that's one of the big retirement questions: is who am I now? Now that I am not that.
Yeah, the kids are out of home. I don't have my job anymore. So who am I? What am I doing? What am I here for?
Absolutely. And some of the folks that we know in ministry are also held by that same persona, even though we might want to think differently. But that's a very strong identity. And lots of ministers do their ministry many, many, many years past what would be a normal retirement age to pursue perhaps something else. Now, granted, there's probably a very close connection for them, but it is interesting to me, that too is an identity.
Absolutely.
If I am not this, then who am I? Right?
Yeah.
So, it's super interesting. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I just thinking, what's an icebreaker when you go into a room? Often, I don't tend to do it now, but hi, Anna, what do you do?
Oh, always.
Or what did you do? And I think it's because people identify, like you say, but it's also it's so common to say. And what else are you going to say? You're going to talk about the weather, right? So these rote things that we do. Get it again from the heart, if not from the heart, but from the head, right?
So yeah. So, and I'm always I try to be clear that I don't want to say everybody's like that. I think this is a first world countries thing. We are the ones that get to have this higher education, right? Which usually stresses intellectual learning. So we get strongly identified with this and leave the other part alone. And of course, spirit can get left alone then too, right? Because the ego, the brain, starts to fill all of us. It fills every inch of who we are on the insides, leaving little room without some growth or some conscious effort, little room for anything else. So it's just very interesting. So that was sort of like me coming into the coaching intuitively feeling we couldn't leave our hearts behind, that they needed to be a player. And then this three brain conversation started to happen, where all of a sudden, with the advancement now in all things medical technologically, we're able to see and measure and think, oh my gosh, I mean, think of how many monks have been put through MRI machines. Right?
Absolutely, for sure.
See how those brain waves are working. We're really interested in that. So that became like sort of a validating thing, I guess. If it needed validation, I was going to do it anyway, just because I tend to be heart-centered myself naturally.
Mhm.
So it was easy for me to bring people along to that space where they were like that too. And then, of course, the Heart Math Institute came on strong too. And do you have some familiarity of them?
I have a little bit, but not too much. I think I get newsletters, but I don't find time to read them.
Well, now, isn't that true for all of us? I could read everything that I was subscribed to.
I know. So tell us a little bit more about the Heart Math Institute.
So, they started to realize that there was something here about the heart, and what was the role of the heart in life in bigger and broader ways. And so they are the ones that started to explore this heart coherence, and seeing the effects, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, when that we can get our heart coherent with these other systems in our makeup. So their work is fascinating. It's very much one of the unity of body, mind, heart, and soul. I would say there's a more formal definition that you can find online, but this ability to breathe into one's heart and learn how to do breath through the heart in times of stress or pressures. It gives us a fabulous way to do some emotional regulation, right? To change a potentially threatening situation into a calmer one, to de-escalate things. If we all had a dose of that in the North American continent right now, we'd probably be making some different political decisions, but we don't. Much of that is coming, I would say, out of ego, not engaging this heart piece. So that piece is huge, this heart coherence piece. If for no other reason, it can help us reduce stress. And there's so much being written from the science side of things these days about stress.
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm shaking my head because we had this discussion at our spirit group today, and it was on empathy and compassion. And there's a process that I've been going through, and it has to do with, I believe, what you're talking about, the heart. And I'm thinking, to go to the heart, to go to the feeling is hard work. If you're someone like me, I'm an empath, however, not so much for myself. And the way I get through life and trauma and whatever is to find the next solution without sitting there and listening to the heart. What am I feeling? And right. So what I'm saying here is, awesome. And it's hard work. It's not without needing chocolate to get through those feelings.
Yes. Yeah. And you're right. Because I that, Marg, to me speaks to, my studies in personality and natural strengths. And we tend to, broadly speaking, to have a strength of being more of the thinking preference, right? Where we take in data from the world and it funnels through brain logic first, right? Or we're feeling preference, and everything that's out there in the world comes through, and it comes through our feeling center. And we both, it's shared, the thinkers feel and the feelers think. But to your point, by having a natural preference, we have to do a little bit more work then. If we're a natural thinker, we have to really embrace those tools to pull us into heart center, right? And those of us that are the feelers and the creators, to ask an artist to put together a business plan is not easy, because it's just not their natural way of being in the world, right? So point well taken. About sometimes it's just more work, but is the payoff there?
Yeah, and I think to your point, and about this being in the westernized world, right?
Oh yeah.
Because when you said that, it took me to two places. Mark, where you took me to is how disconnected we have become in the Western world with
Mhm.
ourselves and with each other.
Mhm.
But if you go, I'm thinking about an African country where you can go to a village and you can see little boys playing soccer with a ball without shoes. I mean, I don't think my toes could take that, or any of our toes. And
Mhm.
they are happy and
Now,
joyful, and there's such. I say there's heart in Africa. There's such
yeah.
heart in Africa.
Mm.
In the places that I have been, that is so you can feel it's tangible, right? And I don't feel that in our westernized cultures.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
it also shows where our values lie.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's true too. So culturally, there's absolutely those differences. And I agree with you, right? When they do the happiness studies, when they look for the most joyful people in the world, I don't think any of them come out of our highly educated first world countries. They're
Mhm.
always the developing nations that are in community.
Yeah.
They depend on each other. They can count on each
Yeah.
other. Their physical proximity. Like I'd love to be with you right now, but look at the physical proximity is distant, right? From
Yeah.
us.
Except I'd have to be on Victoria Island, right? On Vancouver Island right now in Victoria. Then I'd rather come to you.
The snow day here, so pick your day.
Okay.
Yeah, but I hear you. And actually to that point, there's a group of people that have been doing studies. I think, I can't remember if it was 2009 that I read yesterday, about different countries and the happiness level and all these different things that they've measured. And the USA is, although economically has done well, they are the unhappiest,
Yeah.
have most crime, and all those other negative things in their society than any other country, from something I read yesterday. And I can't quote where I read it. I'm reading all these things, but I found that very interesting, that because that's where the value is, right? The cog in the wheel.
Mhm.
Cogs in the wheel. It's all about profit. It's all about numbers. It's not about people. And when
Yeah.
that starts happening, you start developing a very unhappy
Yeah.
society.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that fosters that way that all of us, I mean, not to single them out, I think again, it's all of us in this developed, in quotes,
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
All of us place these values on these things that are ego-driven values more, right? And individualistic, not group. And it's all the communities, and I think it's the ones that really, really get that, they and their neighbor are one,
Mhm.
that there is this interconnectedness. It's those ones that emanate and ooze the joy in the
Mhm.
world. They keep the
Mhm.
frequencies high for the rest of us that think we know what we're doing, but we don't.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
yeah, that's very, very true. I read a study once too that I think it said something like, we're often in our world chasing the almighty dollar, but I think they actually measured it. Once you hit 75,000 a year, I think everything over that doesn't make the impact that you think. So it's not to say poverty doesn't hurt; it does. But once one strives and gets to that $75,000 a year mark, $100,000 or $200,000 isn't going to make you exponentially that much happier.
Right. Yeah.
That's be like a set point for all of us.
Right.
Interesting too. So chasing dollars really doesn't bring us what we hope it's going to bring us.
Yeah. And again, I don't want to say that is the case, because I can't quote where I read it from, but I did read something right now when I was looking it up, that they've certainly dropped. I think it was eight points, or Yeah, but it's not about the US. I think it's exactly what you're saying. It's the different countries and what they have to offer. And I think the Scandinavian countries actually, I think, have been rated the happiest. And if I'm not mistaken, too, I think, is it Belgium or somewhere that they went down to a 4-day week, and things like that, right? And that makes a difference.
Yeah. Again, it's an expression of values. It's the outward picturing of the inner values, right? And I think, and again, I am not a political creature, so I can't speak to this, but I think it's more of a sort of a social kind of a government too, that really supports the all. It's when we buy into this thing that I'm me and I'm an island and I'm all for one and all for me. Whenever we buy into that, I don't know, I call it dangerous. I think it's dangerous. I think it's such a we think it's a powerful way to be, and it's actually the most vulnerable way to be.
I think we need to go for commercial break there. We're 30 minutes in, believe it or not.
Well, somebody should stop talking.
Yeah, thanks, Marg. We do. So, let's come back to this and let's carry on talking about how science and spirituality have come together when we come back. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Join our celebration of Black History Month. Only on New Thought Media Network. New videos every day at 6 a.m. Eastern Time, or watch anytime on our YouTube channel. 28 unique Black History moments. Every day in February. Only on New Thought Media Network.
New Thought Media Network proudly presents the 2025 season for Nonviolence Meditation Series, January 31st through April 4th. Embrace nonviolence every day with our 64 unique video meditations. Join us at 6 a.m. Mountain Time or watch anytime on our YouTube channel. Featuring a collection of New Thought voices, the 2025 season for Nonviolence Meditation Series. Only on New Thought Media Network, January 31st through April 4th.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
And we're back. I just want to say something briefly. When I was talking about myself and going into doing mode, it's for me. Yes, the production, what the result is important, but what I've discovered very recently, it's more of a coping mechanism. So, instead of going into the heart, the feeling of what I'm experiencing, I'm on the next, okay, what can I do? How can I fix this situation, as opposed to taking a breath and feeling what I am about a situation.
Yeah, so good for you. Yeah. See, that's insight, and then growth out of the insight. That's great, Mark. I mean, this is how life evolves when you start to, wake up to all of this, right?
And speaking of evolution, can you speak to how you've evolved through your years of coaching and pre-coaching? I don't know your avenue before you were coaching?
I don't know. How have I evolved? That's a really good question. And I do want to make time to share these 5 statements with you because I want your input on them, but I will try to address that. I'd say how I've evolved is, growing self-awareness for sure. Like I could not be doing my work if I was not growing in my own self-awareness. I think that that's a critically important quality for anybody who's attempting to coach or guide or teach another, is to also be growing. That for sure for me is an ongoing piece. And there's no doubt over these last, spirituality's always been that connection for me of being in awe and wonder and just knowing in the depths of my being that there is more than just me at play here. That's been part of my life. However, it has grown and deepened since I got connected into New Thought decades ago, and now recently with Unity. So that deepening spiritual growth and awareness for me has been, an integral part of my evolution as a being in this life. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I share? I wanted to share.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is Heart Math again, right? This is something that comes from them. So part of their research on heart coherence demonstrates scientifically that the individual emotional states impact collective energy fields, mirroring our unity principle of universal interconnectedness.
Mm-hmm.
That an interesting fit, right?
Absolutely.
And I believe that. I mean, I believe that when we, know of wars happening, it touches us. If we allow it, Mark, to your point, if we allow it to land with us and touch us, we feel that. We feel the joy of others. We feel the sorrow of others. Things like that. In my life, I had a really profound experience of that through the worsening health condition of my best woman friend in my life, and her heart went into failure, and she was revived out of that initial failure. Ultimately, did go on to die, but in that moment, I didn't know that had happened. But I was brought to my knees in my home here in Victoria, even though she was in Ontario. I did not know why, but I couldn't stand, I was just, and I just believe in that interconnectedness of all of us. And I think there's just special souls that we go through the world with that we are deeply connected to, and we feel them intensely. But the fact that can exist in 1 or 2 or 3 people means it exists.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
In all of us, if we open to it and we embrace it and we don't try to keep it, keep it at bay. So I think that's that whole piece of heart coherence and research and science, and bringing that direct correlation over into our unity principles. For me.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I looked at the website. It's a wonderful website. We've posted it in the chat as well for others to see. So yeah, I agree. And that's a wonderful example, Anna. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really profound for sure.
Yeah.
So of course, when I was then thinking about all I could share, naturally, I turned to AI because, who's smarter than me but AI? And I was curious. I said, this is what I asked it to do. I said, what's the parallel between heart coherence and the messages of Jesus in terms of divine coherence? And I thought, okay, so where does that align? Or is the answer there is no alignment, right? Which I was prepared to hear. Right? Being fully open. So it put out these 5 things. So I'm not going to say true, but may I offer them to you for your own?
Yes, absolutely.
True or not true? Okay.
Yes.
Katie, is it true or is it not true? You know, I mean, we can be in that
Bated breath here. I'm sitting with bated breath.
Is it true for you or not?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly right. Okay. So here's one. This is the first one. The alignment of frequencies. So statement is, just as heart coherence represents harmonized physiological rhythms, Jesus's statements about being one with the Father suggest a profound energetic and spiritual synchronization.
Yes.
And
Beautiful.
I thought, wow, I get that.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Number 2, intentional surrender. Heart coherence requires purposeful, emotional, and mental stillness, mirroring Jesus's repeated demonstrations of complete surrender to divine will, exemplified in statements like, not my will, but thine.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I just want to say to people who are listening who don't know much about Unity, CSL, or New Thought, that in New Thought, we believe in Jesus's teachings, not that Jesus is our savior and that we have to pray through him to get to God, but that he came here to show us who we are and how we can live. So when you share that, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And we have to remember the day and age when those things were said or written.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cheryl, so glad you said that. I forget, yes, that we're not purely to a Unity or New Thought audience, perhaps. So very well said. So yeah, in terms of like a way show of how we can be, we too have this, right?
Yes, exactly.
And can I just say too, in my humble opinion, he came here and he had these brilliant messages to share, but I don't think he came, like, I don't think there was anything, like he didn't come to do anything. He
to be
came
put on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A being, not a doing.
Yeah, being. That's it. I love that, the way you put it, a being, not a doing. And to Wayne's point, indwelling Christ everywhere. And I grew up Jewish, and so I still have that ingrained in me. So I use light instead of Christ. And Wayne says white light practice. So I would also talk about the indwelling light everywhere, right? Which is the same as indwelling Christ. And that's a whole other topic, because when did the word Christ come into being? But I don't want to take away from your third point. Let's go.
Okay, third point. So I'll continue to use Jesus through this, and you can absolutely add it and hold it in any way that works for you.
Thank you.
Okay, 3, transformative resonance. Both heart coherent and Jesus's spiritual state represent radical shifts in perception from fragmented, ego-driven consciousness to unified, love-centered awareness that transcends individual limitation.
Beautiful. I love that.
Isn't that great? I know.
Yes.
I thought so too.
You're going to have to send these to me, Anna.
I will. Yeah, I thought they were really, really good too.
Yeah. Awesome.
4, this is 4th, vibrational communication. Jesus's teachings suggest a direct, nonverbal communion with the divine, paralleling how heart coherence represents a form of communication beyond traditional linguistic or rational mechanisms.
Yes.
True too. I felt.
Oh yeah, true for me too. Absolutely. And that's where I think there's a difference between New Thought and traditional religion, is that we look at it metaphysically, right? Beyond the physical. Whereas a lot of what Jesus said and what's written in the Bible is taken literally by many.
Yes.
So I really love that, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. That was beautiful.
Good. Here's the last one, healing potential. Jesus's coherence with divine source manifested as miraculous healing, similar to how heart coherence scientifically generates neurological and physiological repair mechanisms.
Yes.
Isn't it just amazing?
Yes.
I thought I was like cheering AI on. I thought, I could not have crafted that
Yeah.
on my own. I thought it was very succinctly and not half bad.
No, not at all. Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah. So it is interesting to see how, I think that there was so much wisdom,
Yes.
in many earlier times on this earth plane, and I think in a lot of regards we're catching up. Like science has advanced in leaps and bounds, right, over the decades in the last century. I think there's sort of a catch-up thing that's happening now, where where all that we couldn't put our finger on before yet knew, and the science, right, is coming together.
And maybe this is what they call the second awakening,
Uh,
right?
Yeah.
A consciousness, a conscious awakening. Which is very interesting, because I've heard that being said before, that that's what it could be. Mark.
It brings up for me what I say about new thought, and I go, is it though? Is it really new thought? And I think it was Janet Law that said one day, and I resonated with this, new thought from ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
I can wrap my head around that, because yes, we're putting feet to it. So I perhaps new thought there, but it's been around for a long time. We're just surfacing it now.
Yeah. Well, we're bringing it to light, maybe. And I think
Again.
I think there is new thought today. When we look at Nassim, and I always forget his name, but he's brilliant. He's I have to. Anyway, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, all the things that these guys are bringing to us. Greg was a geologist, a scientist, and he's been doing some spiritual work for the last 30 or more years, Bruce Lipton was a biologist who got so interested in consciousness and wrote biology. What was it called? The Biology of Belief.
Yes.
Right, because he literally scientifically did research on consciousness and the cells in our body. So when we look at all of that science and new thought that's evolving, I think it's both, and it's new thought and ancient wisdom, and it just it comes together, just like science and spirituality is coming together.
And to your point, maybe that's it. Maybe we were like this, and now we're coming together. And then once that union happens, that's the big flourishing out then again, right? Of using all of it.
I'm going to use a cliche, but a quantum leap.
We've named that right here and now. And it is so.
Absolutely.
It's a new thought.
Yeah. Well, and I do believe that, in fact, I really do. And quantum physics boggles my mind. But it's science. It just, the fact that the observer has an impact on the outcome. I don't even know if I can ever wrap my head around what that means.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Thoughts are so big. That little emoji that's got the exploding brain?
Yes.
That's what I feel like sometimes when I read this stuff. Whoa, I don't even think I can hoist, much of that in. Like, it's so big.
Yeah. It's so big, and it is. It's there, it exists.
And where do we go from, okay, so I can't wrap my head around it, to being just the observer and going, wow, that's interesting.
But I can just hold that and just, I trust that I'm going to get the drib and drab information that dribbles into me that I am able to grasp once I
Yes.
get that awareness of that big piece. And I can't hold that big piece
Mm-hmm.
because it's just too much in its entirety. But I do trust that I'm going to get, there's going to be an element of it that dribbles down. I think, oh yeah, and then I can be able to make that connection to the bigger thought.
Exactly.
Piecemeal.
Yeah. And to be okay with that, right? To be absolutely okay with the fact that we can't wrap our head around it right now. There's so much that has been shared and that's come out right now compared to 60 years ago, or actually maybe 80 years ago, that people wouldn't be able to wrap their heads around. Think about the cell phone, think about the internet, about Wi-Fi, about all these things that we have become so accustomed to. But 60, 80, 100 years ago, people would have been boggled. That, and think about where that's going to take us in the future. Like, wow.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
But it does. I mean, everything. I mean, that's the beauty of any kind of evolution of anything, right? It's not like this and then instantly that, right? There is that evolution, that stepping of. I mean, I saw something the other day that was a throwback to the original cell phone that was like a Maxwell Smart size of a shoebox, just about, that you were holding up to your ear like this with a battery pack. That was that.
And it was heavy. It was like a brick.
Never mind that. The Jetsons. A friend of mine spoke about the Jetsons, where this person is talking into a screen and seeing, like we're doing right now. Yeah. The Jetsons. Wow.
Yeah.
So I always bless all the creatives, because they are the ones that are writing these television programs that seem so fanciful, and yet it's out of the mind, right? It's out of creative mind, and 10 years down the road we've got it.
I know. Yeah, even the Matrix. Think about the Matrix and how they're now starting to, well, not now, but in the last few years have been talking about perhaps that's exactly what life is like we're in a matrix, and things like that. So when I watch some of these movies, I have to tell you, I do think like, they're putting stuff out there, and because it's been thought of, and because they can do that means it can happen.
Right? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's you're right. I mean, you can think yikes, and you can also think wow, right? Like both.
Yeah, exactly. Yikes! Wow! Yikes! Oh!
Thanks for putting that in my head, Cheryl. No,
makes for a lot of spilled popcorn.
Well, and it's also, I think it's a good opportunity for us to recognize that we can choose how to see it. We can choose how to react to it, or to respond to it. And that's what's really important, is our response and our way of thinking and doing and speaking.
Yeah. And to me, when I think about new thought, I mean, to me, I think of it too in the simplest, most practical way. I'm having this thought that's fear-based. Time for a new thought, right? Like,
yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. Right. And maybe that was what it was meant to be, and we interpreted another way.
Yeah. Who knows? It's just good that we come together to sort out the world, you ladies.
I know.
And I love that we've shared things that make us think, oh, that's a great way of thinking about it. I can shift my way of thinking to think of it that way, and it's in better alignment for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then you would feel it. See, that comes back to this coherence, that alignment of body, heart, and spirit, because you think, what does settle with me? What feels the truth for me in all those centers of my being, not just intellectually?
So give us some practical steps. We're coming to an end. And it's gone so quickly, and it's been such a joy to have you and to talk about these things. What can people do to just little things that they can think about doing when they think about aligning their heart, head, and gut?
I honestly, I think the simplest thing is just to, I mean, it doesn't take long to look up a video on how to do heart-centered breathing. I mean, we always say our breath is like the simplest, most easily accessible tool we've got. So in like 2 minutes of moving attention into the heart, and the blood flow follows our attention, right? Come into that heart space and just literally breathe in and out of that center. We can just move that energy, shift that energy to a different place in our being, and react or come to conclusion or come to decision from that space. I mean, that alone would be huge if all of us just did that, right?
Yeah.
And the second thing would be is if one does feel one is having a gut reaction, to at least hold it for a moment and not instantly override it with brain, right? With logic, with analytics, but to hold that intuitive gut feeling and just see what's there for us. Maybe there is some truth there that needs to be heard.
Yeah.
2 tips.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
The whole world in one program.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but great tips. Thank you. Mark, what about you? How would you like to leave our listeners today with some great wisdom and thoughts about what we've been talking about?
Yeah. What I was thinking as you're talking, Anna, and the state of the world right now, and if we were to collectively take a moment, we're hearing all of this stuff, and if we took a moment to just sit and breathe before going into a reaction, perhaps our reaction would be different and it would have a ripple effect. So that's what I'm going to take away, and perhaps 1 or 2 people will do that before or after they watch the news.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. And I think for me, I'm always, I'm curious about the things that come up for me and how I'm reacting, and looking at how can I choose to respond differently. I think there's, the difference between reaction and responding, and that we have the power to choose. And so for me, that's part of bringing my head, my heart, and my gut into alignment, is recognizing also what thoughts have power over me, and what am I allowing them to do or be, because I don't have to. Right?
Yep.
I don't have to.
Such a powerful way to live, isn't it? To realize we've got all of that at our command, really, to do that, to be that responder in a chosen response.
So to really live consciously, right, rather than unconsciously, to have that awareness and to say, is that true? Is what I'm thinking really true? And look at that, and like you say, listen to your gut and have a conversation with yourself. Start listening to yourself more.
Yeah.
Right. And meditation, obviously, right? Meditation is just something we can't get away with, and we shouldn't get away with, because that's really how we can energetically come into alignment with ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot to be said for the stillness, if you can get into the stillness of that, I think. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Wayne says, love on our planet, loop. Love on our planet, loop. God and I are one. He's sharing all these beautiful quotes.
Lovely.
Oh, wow. And it's been such a joy to have you on the show and to explore these different thoughts and facts, the things that are coming out. And thank you for bringing us what you did from ChatGPT about heart coherence and Jesus' way of being. I really appreciated that. So
and a good reason to eat chocolate.
Amen.
Yeah, so everybody go and have a piece of chocolate, and please like, share, and what was the third one? Ron?
Subscribe.
And subscribe. Thank you. And yeah, come back next week. We'll see you all next week. Thanks for joining us. Bye.